Hmm.
Do you think we'll ever be able to get our energy back?
What do you mean, Shay? Can we get ours back?
Now, see, you didn't even have to do that. What I mean is, okay, so I don't know why, but in my mind, I think I'm stuck in an era that's gone by.
Hmm. So more of an old school mindset.
Very much so.
Hmm.
I think, like I grew up where men were very masculine,
Hmm.
and men, not the whole a woman knows her place, but like there were roles,
Right.
and so much has gotten lost. I mean, I remember a time, I'm going to, case in point. So I'm walking through a door,
Hmm.
and the man is walking through the door too. And I went to reach for the door myself.
Hmm.
And he was like, I was going to get the door for you. And he was like, man, y'all new school women.
Hmm.
And it hit me. I was like, you know what? Wow. I've gotten so used to opening and closing my own doors because a lot of guys just don't do that.
Hmm.
And after a while, as a woman, you start saying, well, you know what? I can open my own doors.
Hmm.
As disappointing as that is, if you grew up with that.
Hmm.
But that's the reality that we face. And not just the opening of the doors, there's so many other things. And and I asked that question, but I was not asking it in a way to be offensive or to beat anybody up.
Right.
But it's just, I don't know. You and I had a conversation about that.
Hmm.
Like, it just seems like real love has gotten lost.
I can understand why you think that way because nowadays so many people are. It's a learned behavior. So many people are not taught some of the things we were taught back when we were growing up. The traditional things that we grew up on, people are not teaching nowadays. So when you see women opening their own doors, pumping their own gas, doing the things that basically you saw your dad do back in the day,
Come on.
we live in a different era. And so a lot of times the values and the things that they put in their children back then, these young men and women are not getting the same thing. So we got to base that around how you're being raised a lot of times.
So
a lot
much.
of times it's
So
in the house. It's a learned behavior.
That's very true.
If you never saw that, you won't know how that
You
looks.
have no
You don't know how
template.
that looks.
Yeah.
So when you look for things like that to happen in today's society, you got to look back and say, I wonder how he was reared.
Of course,
know
it
what I
all
mean?
it all goes back to how people are raised. But I think too, I think it's also a choice because I'm also seeing a lot of men who were raised right.
Mhm.
I think it's culture. I
Yeah.
think culture has started to has been dictating what love is.
Yeah.
It's in the music, it's in the shows that we watch. There was a time when love songs were love songs. Now love songs is soft porn.
Mhm.
Think about it.
Yeah.
When you drive in the car with your kids, it's kind of hard to listen to the radio. Is it not? I mean,
not.
like if I'm with my parents and I'm grown,
Right.
and certain songs come on the radio, I'm like, oh my goodness, and
Yeah.
although we're all adults in the car, I don't know. It just seems to me like respect has been lost, and we're trying to keep up with a culture that has run past us, and we don't think with our hearts anymore.
Mhm.
Relationships are caught up in it. Relationships are transactional now
Yeah.
because of it, and it's like, you do this for me, I'll do that for you.
Right.
You give me this, and I'll give you that.
Yeah.
That's not love.
No, it's not. It's based around what you do for somebody. That's contractual. That's not covenant. We'll say a covenant relationship is based around the love, the way you place values in that relationship. And a lot of times people don't do that anymore.
No.
It's based off what can you do for me. I like the way we came
Emotions.
into it. And I'm gonna piggyback on what I said earlier about what you said about opening doors. I remember when I first moved to Memphis, I was dating this young lady, and she was an older lady, and she would not let me get out the car without opening her door, and I had to experience that. And it was like, I thought something was wrong with her because I would get out
She
the
was
car
teaching.
sometimes and she would just sit there. And
She was teaching.
I would say, what is
Come
wrong
on,
with this
sis.
woman? I ain't used
Yeah.
to this. But it got me accustomed to understand what that looks like because that was the first woman that actually demanded that.
She had standards.
She had
And that was
standards.
foreign.
So what
Ooh,
I'm trying to
gosh.
say in so many ways is what you allow sometimes. If you allow this to go on, if it's not a problem for you, if it's okay, most people don't look at it like it's an issue. But when you set the ground rules, if you say, I don't want you to do this going into the relationship, then the rules are set. But when you allow it to happen for 6 months, a year,
Come on,
2,
Ike.
3 years, 4 or 5 years, you can't, it's hard
Come
to
on,
fix
Ike.
that.
Can
You
we
know?
high five?
Yeah, we have 5 on that.
That,
you know?
brother, that's it
Yeah,
right there.
It's hard to fix
You
that.
know what? Okay, so that just gave me two different topics that I want to touch on.
Mhm.
Okay, standards and love. Okay,
Mhm.
so standards are lost now
Right.
because now if you have standards, the talk is you're trouble.
Mhm.
You come with too many problems. What's wrong with you? That's why you're single because you got all these standards.
Right.
What is wrong with standards? You know what I'm saying? I mean, why do I have to twerk for you to get you to look at me? Why do I have to show everything I have for you to like something? Okay, I'm gonna tell you what's crazy to me is that like posting online or whatever. It's like you can post the most prolific stuff that is just life-changing, impactful. Nothing.
Right.
But don't put on something tight.
Right.
Oh, you might go viral.
Mhm.
Just because you got on a tight dress. It's just like standards are lost. And that's when my first question, can we get our energy back? Me as a woman, I rely on a man being a man. I rely on a man having a standard as well. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like him having I don't want that kind of woman.
Mhm.
Because y'all dictate what the women are.
Mhm.
I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna roll it back to the 90s, the end of the 80s, then the 90s, and the videos.
Okay.
When you look back at old videos and things like that, we had on some clothes,
Right.
and y'all still considered us sexy. Y'all thought, oh man, that girl is bad, you
Right,
know.
right.
And it was based on how we dressed, how we carried ourselves. Then all of a sudden, these videos were introduced, and the video garden tools started being interjected. Quote unquote, the video hoes started being held up like
Right.
that's the standard.
Right.
And the reason they were doing it is because that's what the rappers and the musicians were all saying they wanted. That's all they saw on the TV screen.
Right.
So weak-minded women will acclimate to what it seems like the culture is gravitating towards. And Lord, when God started marrying, that type of woman, women started feeling, because hey, a woman is created to be a receiver and to be the other half, a helpmeet, right?
Right.
I mean, that's innate. And so if it looks like that's what I have to do to get a man, to get a man to cover me, then a lot of women will do that. And unfortunately, we live in a world of broken people.
Yeah.
And broken people who don't have mothers and fathers who are helping them to lay a foundation. And so here we are.
Yeah, it goes back to values. It goes back to what you allow. A lot of women these days don't have a great role model at home. And so when you don't have that, I know growing up, our mother set standards. My mother was in the household with my father. She was very classy. She showed what it looks like to be a lady, to run a household. The respect a man gives a woman when she's a classy lady is a whole different ballgame. We treat quote unquote hoes like they should be treated. If you allow us to go in and do that, you're going to be treated that way. Okay? You set the standard yourself, because it's almost like having that when a man has something extra, like they say on the side, that'll allow him to do whatever he wants to do, but he goes over here to the standard, right?
Yeah.
So if that person allows that, you can't blame no one but yourself.
Well, let me ask you this.
Because there's a high value woman and there's a high value man.
What is it with, if you're a woman who has a standard,
Mm-hmm.
why is it that it seems like guys are like, too much work?
It is work.
Like, yeah, I mean, well, why? Like, okay, like you accept the challenge. You accepted the challenge. Mm-hmm. You know that, you know what? This is what my wife expects. This is what that woman expected of me. And you probably left her alone because you were like, man, I can't. You know, because at that time in your life, you were still playing around, right?
If you're not ready to come in, right? You're ready to be kept. They don't want a kept woman. They want somebody they can play with, not to stay with. So if you want somebody to play with, you're not going to be the person. And a lot of guys are up front. I don't want to waste your time. So you don't need
and we
to
have
waste
to
mine.
appreciate that,
So
ladies.
you can
We
be
have to
honest.
appreciate when a man
Right.
is honest enough to be like, sis, you know what? I just want some low-hanging fruit, okay? I don't feel like doing all that. I don't feel like climbing up that tree.
Right.
So let me just deal with the low-hanging fruit. And you cannot take that personally. As a matter of fact, you have to thank that brother who cares enough about himself and thinks enough of you to be respectful enough of your time, to not waste your time.
Yeah, because
Okay, go
what
ahead.
it looks like, if you go into that relationship knowing that, and you accept it anyway, who can you get upset with?
Exactly. You have to blame yourself.
Hmm.
And you know what? I'm going to say something too. We women, we have to stop thinking that when he says, well, or if he acts like he wants to ghost you or whatever the case may be, we cannot take that stuff personally. A lot of times guys just aren't even mature enough to even, I swear, I think a lot of men don't even know what they want or what they need. Because I was listening to an older sister, a very wise woman. She was saying that right now men are being entertained to death because women are making it so easy. So you're competing. You and your standards, boo-boo, are competing with all of that that's going on out there that you're saying you won't do. Because what we won't do, they will. And if a man has not found himself, he will gravitate to where it's easy. Because he doesn't feel like exerting that kind of energy. That is not a loss to you. And you need to understand that. You don't lose in that regard. Do we lose like that?
No, because, well, the thing about it is, you know what you want. He has to know what he wants. And that's pretty much the bottom line. If he wants a lady in the streets, and that's all he wants, and he wants 2 or 3 of them, I mean, you got to respect him for who he is at that time. Because all of us grow. And all of us has been through what we call cycles in life. And so once you get through those cycles of, hey, I want to do this right now, and I'm not thinking about that, then you respect the person.
Okay, so how we got to this point of feeling like we needed the Experiential Podcast. Why is the Experiential Podcast necessary? So Ike and I are very, very passionate about relationships, clearly. And one night we were on the telephone and we were just, talking about the way that love is being viewed right now, the way love is being played with. And, just everywhere you look, it was men, women this, women that, and men were like, no, it's y'all. Yeah. And it was just this right here. Right. And we were just like, man, it just looks like there's no hope for love now. Because everybody is transactional. And everybody's putting the blame in the wrong place, okay? Because the bottom line is, what is love? What is love?
What is love?
God is love. God is love. And if there's no God in that relationship, there is no love in their relationship. And that's the problem. Everybody keeps trying to build a relationship without a foundationship. If you don't have God in your relationship, there's no foundation. You're trying to build on sand. And not to be all, holy roller-ish or anything like that, but relationships were founded in the Bible. Relationships started with God. And the Bible says that they that build a house without the builder is not going to stand. And that's why these relationships are falling apart, because they're built on what? Lust.
Mm-hmm. That's true. And a lot of times we don't find ourselves until we get the Lord in our lives. And a lot of things we go through in life, we actually regress, and we punish ourselves indirectly and don't see it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times when we get to a place where we get God in our lives, we understand what it looks like at that point, and things start to change. We start to transition, and our mindsets, our relationships change. Everything changes. So once we get to that point where we put that in our lives, and we can actually lead that way, lead our families, lead our wives, lead our children, everything changes at that point. It's a game changer when you put God in your life. So basically, that's basically your foundation. You said it all right then, Shay. It basically gets you in a position where you can actually lead and build something for the future, and your kids and your wife can see what it looks like to have something in place to actually, lead your families in the right
something
direction.
To hold on to.
Something to hold on to, something
Solid.
to grasp, even when you're down, even when you're in your carnal mind state, right? You can always go to the Lord. You always, put that in, implement that, have that in their minds to where they know they can depend on the Lord if they can't depend on nobody else.
Come on now.
Right? So that's what that does.
So, as we, were talking or whatever, it just seemed like all these different topics started coming up, different things that we go through as individuals. And one of the things that we talked about where it pertained to men and men changing. Now, women, we stay emotional, right?
True.
We were wired to be emotional creatures. I mean, the Bible says we're the weaker vessel. Now, it wasn't just talking of, it was in brawn, we're weaker than men. But if you look at the Bible, emotionally, even though we are emotional creatures, we are strong emotionally, because we're more apt to go on our knees and pray. We're more apt to be like all throughout the day, talking to the Lord, doing the mental and emotional work. Men, you guys just do. You're it's mechanical. You're constantly thinking about, what do I need to do next? How do I make this happen? And sometimes because you're men and God is a man and you can't even see him, it's kind of hard for you to submit to something that you can't see. And we were talking one evening about that, and how when you are a male telling you to submit, and when you do finally get married, you're going to submit, fellas, whether you right, you will be submitting. And people misconstrue the Bible where it talks about the women and submission. A man has to submit to God in order for him to love a woman the way God loves the church, the way Christ loves the church. And submission is not easy for you guys. It's easier for us. But a lot of times for a man to submit, he's got to go through some stuff. Is that right?
That's true. That's in all aspects. That's for men and women. But men, that's why God put man here first, to lead. He put him on earth first, and the woman is our rib. I mean, he took a rib from Adam, and y'all are helpmate, and that's the way it should be, and that's the way God designed it, and it's for a reason. So basically, we're put here to lead our families. We're put here to lead men outside of our immediate families. We're put here to lead in all types of ways. So it's not just our immediate families we're put here to lead. We're put here to lead other men and women as well. So it's,
that's exactly right.
Right.
And the thing about that is that women, we have to understand, and sometimes I think it's hard for men to understand, that we literally watch y'all. We watch our men, because we want to see like where we fit in, like how can I help? It's innate for us to want to help you guys, but a lot of times men don't identify where his woman can help. And I don't know, sometimes I think that's because they're not meant to be together, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's why a lot of relationships clash, because like Ike and his wife, they know they fit like this because Ike knows how his wife can help him, right? And we as women, we have to we need instructions on how this man is wired, and that comes from studying him, that comes from communication, and he has to know where you fit in order to.
But time plays a part. Not to cut you off, but time being with that person plays a part in the way you understand how they move and what their likes and dislikes are. And so when you spend time with a person, not 2 or 3 months, but time. When you spend a time with a person, you get to know who that person really is, because you don't know what their
core values
are. You don't know how they were brought up. You don't know their real traumas. You don't get all that until you spend real time with them.
Exactly.
Because they're not going to share all the things they dealt with.
And that's when love becomes a choice. Because love is a choice. Okay, so culture says it's a feeling. If I try you out and you don't feel right and fit right and all that foolishness, that's what love is based on culturally now. Whereas real love is friendship. We go through some ups and downs. I need to see you mad. I need to see you sick. I need to see you sad. I need to see you on and you need to see me on them days when I'm just like, and you like, what's wrong? What's the matter? And I can't articulate it because it's hormonal. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. But it, like I was saying, it all takes time, right?
Yeah, you're not gonna.
You start laughing.
No, I'm laughing because you're not gonna actually know your person right away. That love at first sight, that's lust.
Oh,
okay, that's
the honeymoon.
That's the honeymoon. That ain't no. I'm gonna tell you, ain't no such thing. Now, you may be totally attracted to her at first sight. That's okay. It's nothing wrong with that. But love at first sight, you ain't never spoke to him. Never said a word.
That's Disney World.
That's fairy tale.
Yeah.
Stuff. That's a good cliche. It sounds good, but
exactly.
Like
all the they kissed and fell in love and all that stuff.
Right.
Listen, you grow in love.
Right.
Falling in love, a lot of times, you biting into the wrong apple. You biting into, the apple has got a worm, and so it takes time. Yeah. People, time is an investment, and
I mean, if you look throughout the Bible, time, God made plenty of people wait.
Come on now.
Listen, patience, understanding that time spent, the pain of growth.
Come on.
Now, if we don't want to endure anything in life, if we don't want to really see the real fruits, but we're gonna have to deal with some pain. We got to deal with some.
That's what Jesus did. I mean, perfect reflection of Jesus Christ. That's what love really is. Do y'all think we were really worthy of what he did? I mean, because we're really not. And yet he chose. And guess what? He gives us what? Time. The gift of time. That's why he says, we fall over, we fall down, but we get up. And when we get up, we don't get up in him saying, I told you so. You little heathen. He doesn't do that. When we fall, he picks us up and he dusts us off by teaching us literally speaking to our spirits how we ended up in the messes that we ended up in, and gives us wisdom on how to not do it again. Love is deeper than the physical. It's so much deeper than that, because a lot of times when people are caught up in the physical, they find they don't even like each other. And love and that I don't really like this person. That's where you end up with awful divorces and stuff, because they lusted after each other. They didn't really like each other because they didn't spend that quality time getting to know one another. So in the end of all of this, go back to when you first meet a person. We're talking about love, right? So when you go back and meet that person, when you look at that person, you evaluate them, right? You look at them and say, can I spend the rest of my life with this person, knowing their flaws, knowing what they're dealing with, right? If I could meet them at this place right now where they are, could I still be with this person for the rest of my life? Those are the questions you ask yourself, because all of us have flaws, right? So all of us have flaws, and the question is, beyond the look, beyond the lust, all this other stuff he's dealing with, but I like the core value in that guy. That's right.
I know he has flaws. I know she has flaws. but can you live with this person even with the flaws that you see?
Mm-hmm.
The question you ask yourself as a woman and a man.
Exactly. You
It
know what?
works both
It's
ways.
funny that you're saying that, because I was getting dressed the other morning and it literally hit me. The person that your person, you have to care so much about that person that if anything, it was actually because of a story that we had done. And beautiful couple, both healthy, wonderful life, trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And that wife had to spend her days with a man who was no longer the man that she married. So I realized, I said, you know what, really and truly, where it pertains to love, you have to ask yourself another question. Do I love this person enough that if something happens, that I can wash this person, I can clean this person, I can cook for this person, I can, if I have to wheel this person around, whatever has to happen, do I love them enough that for better, for worse, in sickness and in health, all that stuff, really, it's real, because life happens and we don't know what's going to happen. So that foundation of love, the God kind of love, that's the only real love there is. Do not be fooled by what the culture says love is. Get the real deal.
Hey, I'm with you on that. That true agape love, unconditional at its finest. Until we learn that, we just out here just fishing. Until we actually
Caught up
learn
in the
that.
cycles.
Caught up in the cycle.
Caught up in the cycles.
So ultimately, we got to get to that point, and that
Gotta
takes
grow
time.
to that point.
You got to grow to that point. It takes time, and it has to. Pain is growth.
No
So
pain, no gain, people.
No pain, no gain.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Experiential Podcast.
Podcast.
We'll be dropping off nuggets for you here and there. Just stay tuned. Looking for Shay and Ike on
Yours
the
truly.
what?
Experiential Podcast.